This is the second time the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, will be meeting executives and editors of media organizations in Nigeria. And top on the agenda of the meeting is the need for synergy between the armed forces and the media. The recent security breaches across the country, including the Federal Capital Territory, have increased tension among the citizens. But the military believes some successes have been recorded in the fight against criminality.
It is in recognition of the key role of the media that the leadership of the armed forces of Nigeria will continue to seek you and engage with you.
In June this year, armed men attacked St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo in Ondo State, opening fire on worshippers and killing at least 40 people, with scores of others injured. 2 months after the attack, there appears to be good news, as disclosed by the Chief of Defense Staff.
I'd like to very heartwarmingly present to you that we've done quite a lot, and it's my pleasure to also let you know that starting with the church attack, we have arrested those behind that dastardly act. On the 7th of August, Idris Ojo, who is 32 years old, was apprehended at Ayetoro C in Ondo State. He is one of the high-profile Islamic State in West African province terrorists that escaped from Kuje prison. Alongside with him is Jimo Ibrahim, who is a 39 years old criminal, who was also arrested.
While fielding questions from the media executives, he gives assurances on the security for a peaceful conduct of the 2023 general elections.
I join, to encourage and of course to assure, at least from the military side, that the 2023 general elections certainly not only will he hold, we will do everything to ensure that nothing stops it.
The outcome of this media parley is expected to shape future interaction between the media and the military authority. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
So how do we internalize the comments coming through from the CDS in the context of what's playing out in the country? Wait a minute, what about the president's directives? How are they responding or carrying or executing those directives of the presidents concerning security? Well, let's head to Abuja and get some answers. Marpa?
Retired Major General Augustine Agundu, who is the former commander of Operation Safe Haven. Thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning.
It's my pleasure.
Mr. Wilson Inalego, who is a former AIG of police, we have to thank you also for coming this morning as well.
It's a pleasure for me to be here.
Well, some news there from the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo. I was just about to say Major, and I remember, no, he's a general, he's a full general, General Lucky Irabo. And you could see that even as he was saying it, what he was hoping to carry across was, from what I could get, was beyond the message. I think what he was also trying to say was that, that we need to have confidence in our security agency and the capacity to be able to deliver. And that's what I was able to glean from the manner in which he delivered the news, that the people who were responsible for the Owo attack had now been apprehended. But for you gentlemen, I know you're men of the, I don't want to say establishment, but you've been in the force, in the different security agencies. Given our current circumstance, given where we currently are at, would you say that is enough to instill the confidence in the Nigerian populace about the capacity of our security apparatus? Let me start with you, Major General Agundu.
Yes, thank you very much for having me here. Indeed, we will have to be conscious of the effort of every level of leadership of the military to
get operational successes as expected. A lot of work is being done behind the scenes, and of course, military operations are not planned on the telly or on the pages of newspapers. Or the military leaders have that utmost responsibility to carry out their job professionally. It's a career, it's a profession. It's not like any other type of jobs that were being executed somewhere or whatnot. And we want to deliver results, and we're always striving. For each time that there is a setback, it means that a lot of things is also going behind the scenes. The military leaders are there to plan the campaigns, to plan operations, to execute operations from all the levels of operational successes that you have seen. A lot of work is being, a lot of sleepless nights are being put into place to bring out, and do not forget that we do have action after action reviews for each operation, and then where we go back and sit down and see what happened and what is the next step and how we're going to get this. So that is the result of what you have seen by the, of course, if you watch the Chief of Defense Staff, he's trying to be very careful not to divulge a lot, and he was just fighting. But the thing is that a lot of effort is on to make sure that we stabilize the situation in the country today.
I don't know whether you also, do you agree with him, or do you have another perspective?
Yeah, I think from the operational success being recorded by the security forces should instill confidence in the mind of the public. Because when you had that dastardly attack in Owo, it looked as if those people were like spirits. But now, they've been apprehended. And I think this should encourage the public to support the security forces, that no matter whom you think you are, if you are a criminal and you perpetrate acts, the long arm of the law will catch up with you. Wherever you go, you'll be chased and apprehended. And I think once you begin to build this kind of trust in the mind of the public, you begin to prevent the fear of crime. Talk of Abuja. You think of so many places, oh, you get phone calls, we can't come to Nigeria, we are told this is happening, that is happening. But when you see successes like this, it renews your confidence. And I think the public should have confidence in the security forces to deliver on their mandate to keep our communities safe and secure.
There will always be questions as to how that wasn't detected in the first instance, and how it is, I mean, when you think of the fact, he talked about two of the convicts, of the high-profile convicts, inmates of Kuje prison being apprehended as well. I don't know whether it's as well, or maybe it was as a result of the apprehension that we're able to get, but I don't know. The reason why I'm drawing that link is because when this Owo attack occurred, the federal government, through the Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, came out to say that they saw the imprint of ISWAP over it. And part of the suspects, part of the convicts whom he tells us that they have been able to apprehend are the people, the high-profile ISWAP inmates at Kuje. There will be questions as to how we let Kuje happen, how we didn't act on intelligence. That will be there, and how it will seem that we're getting these convicts back in trickles. We're not getting them back in large numbers when we hear the amount of people who were able to escape. But let me bring you back to the issue of preventing this sort of crime in the very first instance. Do you think that there is enough on the ground? Because right now it looks like we're struggling to catch up with the terrorists. It looks like we're struggling to catch up with the bad people. And after they've committed the act is when we go after them. Do we have enough on ground to be able to say, as we're going after those who have committed these crimes, we also have sufficient intelligence to foil the attacks of those who are planning fresh ones?
Absolutely. You see, for every organization, in the military, for instance, they have more than enough intelligence assets to go after, that supports, they are all force multipliers that support the operations. And but the local support on the ground is very paramount to help us to put flesh to the intelligence that we have. And it should be a collective effort. What we are facing today is more or less information battle, which also we expect the support from also the media to help us not to give oxygen to these terrorists. We know there are setbacks, like any other human endeavor. But are we making efforts? Are we putting in enough to ensure that such a thing never repeats itself? The answer is yes. Well, it might not be at the pedestal at which you expect, but you have to be, we have to be very, very, we have to support our military. We have to support the effort of each and every effort that the military is putting in place to make sure that results are good. There are set objectives for all military operations. There is nobody that what is sought, especially in the generalship rank, that you sit back and you see that things are not going in its appropriate direction and now you just say, lay back. No. Every now and again, a lot of effort is being put in. But we cannot, as like I said earlier on, we can't put all those things on the table because military operations are planned, they are followed and properly executed if there are setbacks. Even the successes that we have now, a lot of planning is still going on to sustain the successes that are so far achieved. So there is no time for rest until the total peace that we expect for the entire country is gotten. Now, these terrorists are humans. They live within us. You can see, if you take the instance of the Owo, with all the expose that we have today, we see that they lodged somewhere within the same town. How large is Owo? Somebody supported them. They moved some from a particular point. They had transportation. So it is imperative for each and every of us as a nation to come together to say that we must nip everything in the bud. And then the military will be able to do their own aspect. The synergy that we have today within the security forces, military and security forces, they are all unprecedented.
Do you think that this arrest was something that just happened? Some people would say that perhaps not. The governor has corroborated the statement of the CDS. But before now, the Amotekun had said that, oh, they were hot on the trail. I think they said they had caught a few of the suspects involved in the Owo attacks. And you also noted that it was saying that from the choice of words that the CDS used, he was being careful not to divulge too much. I don't know what your thinking is, but or what it is that you will be allowed to divulge or tell us from what you know. But if I were to join the dots from my own basic analysis, I would be able to say that this seems to be an ongoing investigation. It looks like they're bringing in people bit by bit. Do you think that is the situation?
Absolutely. Before the CDS spoke and then told the nation what has happened, a lot of things had happened. A lot of arrests have been there. A lot of leads have taken place, and we don't. Military, by its profession, you don't talk too much. All what we do is carry out a lot of series of actions. There are people who are planning. There are people who are within intelligence unit. There are a lot that is going on at the same time, pari passu, whatnot. So there is no way for us to say that this is. It was at this point that they were gotten. It was at this point that this happened.
But given the level of where we currently are, I mean, he wasn't speaking at a parade. I think when he gave that statement, some people would have loved to say, where are they? We want to see them. And rightfully so, too, even though people are innocent until proven guilty. But in this instance, if the security agencies are cocksure that these are the people, I mean, through months of painstaking investigation, these are the people who are responsible for this crime, do you think that, one, they should have paraded them? And two, do you think that the public should have a little more information beyond we have been able to apprehend these people?
I think, like you read, even in your comment preceding this question, you had talked about perhaps it is an ongoing, the investigation is an ongoing process.
Mm-hmm.
And is it possible all of them would have been apprehended? And if they have not, do you begin to parade them prematurely? But I think the public anxiety should be assuaged by the fact that arrests have been made in connection with that heinous crime. So it's difficult, to begin. You must get to a comfort level when you think, if I parade the other guy hanging out there, who could be the main person you're looking for, you will not compromise your investigation and the other processes. And of course, I'm sure it's not going to take so long. They will be handed over to the appropriate agencies for prosecution. And
the appropriate agency in this instance will be?
Well, it could be the MPF, the police, to prosecute. It depends on...
You're a little reluctant to mention that.
Yeah, but once the investigation gets to a certain stage, I think it will be handed over to the relevant agency that will carry out the prosecution. And I think this arrest could have been a product of interagency cooperation and collaboration. He mentioned
that it was as a result of that. I think even my colleague Chamberlain highlighted that.
All right. So,
and we are having some interagency cooperation on this conversation.
Yes.
But I mean, he was also very clear. He said it was military-led interagency cooperation. So the military in this instance was the lead investigator. But would they be the lead prosecutor? That's to either of you.
Well, I'm not a.
Does the military prosecute?
No, we don't have prosecution power.
Okay.
But investigative, yes, we have, and at a certain stage in the entire, when it is ripe, they will be handed over to. It's a whole gamut. Everybody is on board on this, and we cannot rush into investigations because these are high. I don't want to give them what they don't deserve, but they are high-value targets. We want to know the extent of their recruitment, from which year have they joined this group, who are their foreign, perhaps, links, who are those that they have been in, and how much indoctrination have they given into this. A lot of things need to come out. So, but like he said, what we're trying to do is to assuage the public that a lot of work is being done. And the survivability of our country depends on each and every one of us. We have said that over and again, because we all have a role to play. Now and again, even the NSA, you now see most often talking about the whole of society approach in solving a lot of our problems. We cannot just lay back. We cannot stay aloof. The country is at its brink, and the level at which, if we take, for instance, the situation in the Northeast now, and you see the level at which operational successes are being recorded, and even those who are surrendering to this, a lot of information is coming out from there. Those who are, after profiling and vetted, of course, the state government is taking a lot of action on those who are to be rehabilitated and all those stuff. But the successes in that is not being seen, because most of these terrorists that have surrendered, they have already started making families. They have children. I said now there are more than 35,000 children that came out with them. So if we don't put all these bits and pieces together, those children could be the next generation of terrorists. So a lot of work is being done. It's a whole gamut of efforts. And I believe that if we keep our legs on the pedal, I'm sure that total peace will sooner than later come into the country.
So let's zero in on interagency cooperation.
Yes.
And also throw in something in the mix. I mean, when I think about the statement of the Deputy Speaker of the House, talking about how there were 44 intelligence reports before the Kuje attack happened. And you hear now that it was as a result of interagency cooperation that we were able to secure the arrest of these people, and also, bring back convicts from who broke out of Kuje. There will be questions as to why is it that interagency cooperation, good as it is, and results-driven as it is, it gives results when it happens. Why is it that we don't see it as often as we ought to see it?
I think a lot of agencies, especially since the 9/11, across the world, agencies at the core of their policy and practice is to encourage interagency cooperation and especially collaboration. In carrying out this process, of course, it has to be intentional. And if you don't do it intentional, but I think beyond that, beyond talking about synergy, interagency cooperation and collaboration, I think it's got to be internalized. And how do we achieve that? I think in our curriculum, in all our various training institutions, we've got to give specific attention to them so that when these young officers are coming out of the academy, of the police training schools and the rest of them, they already have it in their minds that this job I'm going to do, I'm not going to do it alone. Because at the core of interagency cooperation and collaboration is the public. How do we keep them safe? Can one agency keep them safe? No. They must.
We know that there are so many things that militate against that.
So we've got to, about in the training, once in a while, joint training. Of course, the MPF has that at Ex-AIG. Once some level of officers in the intermediate on training in just go to Ex-AIG and have. So across various agencies, there must be active interagency cooperation and collaboration internally and externally. And also, just like you try to build the confidence of the public, you also encourage that, either at the mess level, at
what
the
I'm
senior
saying
officer.
Is, what exactly is obstructing it? We know it is desirable. That's basically what
you
we
have somebody to seek success alone, seeking vainglory, not being respectful, not being humble. You've got to recognize that the other agency has its core responsibility, and that in bringing them on board, once that level of respect is not there, it tends to put people off. Once there is a kind of superior feeling by any agency against the other, you will not have interagency cooperation and collaboration in particular. But once there's mutual respect, it will go a long way. But once you are not seeking to be the only agency that can do it all, forgetting that, you alone cannot do it. So we've got to seek those boundaries, and you've got to respect the responsibility of the other agency. So once you have that, and then nobody, claiming glories, claiming that I did it. No, we did it. Once we have the spirit of we did it, we're going to succeed.
I know you wanted to quickly, you certainly worked with Safe Haven, and
That's
I'm sure
right.
you had many instances where you had to cooperate with other security agencies.
That's right. Interagency cooperation is there in our training manuals, all the level, but perhaps it has never been as it is. Now, I give kudos to the present leadership of the armed forces, the Chief of Defense Staff and Service Chief, and also even the Inspector General of Police. Now, there is greater synergy amongst them. And if you look at their philosophy of command, you see at one tail of it is also rendering necessary assistance as it might be to each other. And since we are faced with lots of this insecurity in the country, there have been a lot. I have seen series of meetings and conversations and plannings between the service chiefs and the Inspector General, and even with the DSS and all of them. So what I'm saying is that the present crop of military leadership They understand that very, very well. And if you take Imo State for an instance, most of the successes recorded in Imo State is by interagency. DSS leading in some instances, police and the military giving the leader support that is so required. So it is the in thing. We all recognize it today, and nobody is going to stay away from that. Of course, I experienced it in Plateau State because every agency in Plateau State, more or less, they supported my efforts and everything, and that helped us a lot.
I know that there will be more questions on this one, but let's throw this to Lagos. Ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Makba. Well, Major General Agundu, listening to what Ms. Inalogu was saying, some of those comments as to being humble, respectful, we did it, not one agency doing it, it's about other agencies. It comes across as though there's a lot more that is being said and not being done about interagency cooperation, or more or less rifts between the army and the police, because the public cannot afford to get that kind of impression. But what we see is, in fact, a couple of days ago, the army brutalizing the police officer. So it comes across as though the army doesn't have that relationship with the police, which they could leverage on largely to achieve a lot more success. Is that right?
No, that's not entirely right, Chamberlain. When there are isolated incidents of disciplinary cases, it does not rub off on the entire system. Yes, we will have some times we do have altercations and at low levels and all. It does not say who we are. But let us look at the successes that have been recorded so far within this prism of interagency cooperation. It's working. And I'm sure that a lot of effort, every agency, both the military and other security agencies, they have seen and they do acknowledge that now we have to do it all together. What has been eliminated now is those personal ego, those fiefdom you try to build, that I am the one in charge, it is mine or whatnot. We all recognize today that together we can get this job done. And of course, you have seen how responses are being carried out. In certain instances, you know that it's perhaps they'll ask, okay, the police officer on the scene should talk to the media what we did, even though the military did it or whatever. So these are things that are going on, and I believe we are going to sustain it, and of course we'll get greater results going forward.
For those who think that there appears to be this institutional divide between the army and the police when it has to do with interagency cooperation, because, I mean, look at what's going on with terrorism, internal security and policing. Mr. Nalogo was reluctant to say who really is the lead agency, but that happens to be the police. So in this kind of case, does the police submit themselves to civilian authority, in this particular case, the police, for instance, where aren't they the ones to have taken charge of this internal security, for instance?
Yes, the police has primacy on internal security. But when a situation develops to the extent of terrorism that involves mass casualty and the rest of it, there is a process of military assistance to civil authority.
Yeah.
And so once you have such a situation, though the police has primacy, but you could have the police, the military coming in. But I think the way the situations are evolving so rapidly, it becomes difficult to follow very strictly the MACP or the military assistant to police procedure. So there are times that because the situation develops so quickly and leading to mass casualty and all that, you have the military step in. But there is, a process. And so you don't have, and that is why in most of the cities, you don't have the military conducting patrols. But at the outlying areas, talk of Abuja, you find like Kuje and the other places where you have some of these suspected, where people think some of these people are. Those operations are going. And in most cases, they are joint, operations. So when you have a situation of terrorism, and then people armed with RPGs, GPMG, and other high caliber weapons, of course you have the military step in. So there is no very, very strict divide in that case. Sometimes you must have a kind of symbiotic the police must have a kind of symbiotic relationship with the military, like I earlier said, when the situation is developing. So, and that is why I was trying to say that once the initial arrests have been made, you've got either the police, most likely, or the DSS. I think police, the MPF most likely, having, to step in with conducting full investigation and prosecution.
When you say most likely, is it not very clear what it should be?
Yeah, when like the attack on our, I believe the police eventually will take over the investigation and the prosecution. I think that's why the Chief of Defense Staff talked about.
Speaking about that,
this achievement.
We even need to listen to again some part of what the Chief of Defense Staff said, but that will be when we return in just a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back. Well, we're trying to wrap our heads as to the trajectory in terms of if the CDS was actually saying that those who were arrested from escaping from Kuje actually were the ones responsible for the Owo attack. So that looked a little confusing because, I mean, the attack in Owo happened before that of Kuje. So I guess something's amiss, which we'll sort out. But Mr. Nadigu, are you satisfied with or would you say that there is a policing component in all of this internal fight to rid the country of terrorists and insurgents? Because many who keep asking themselves if they wanted to volunteer information about terrorism, many cases, they don't know where to turn. And even when they get to the police says, well, we don't have this capacity. So something seems amiss here.
All right. Okay. You see, the police has primacy in internal security. But is the police proper? Does the police have the resources to be able to fulfill their mandate? Ordinarily, in a state command, like I said, there is a process of a transfer from the police to the military, or yes, to the military, because I think MACA or MACP, Military Assistance of Civil Power. Now, but the situation that we have, luckily the police has the reach. In most communities, you have police presence. The police is the first point of call. If you are in Kajuru, for example, and there is an attack, does the division in Kajuru, for example, have the resources? Do they have the manpower, the personnel, the personnel strength? Do they have the logistic strength to be able to respond? Unless we are able to equip the police to a reasonable level, you are going to have the military coming at the first point of call, which shouldn't be. Not even the NPF, not even the police mobile force. The situation that we had in the past, you had the situation where you had the conventional unit respond. And it is when the conventional unit is unable, that is the blue uniform, they are not able to do it. That's when you have the police mobile force. But now, the lines are so blurred. They are hardly there. Therefore, there should be a conscious realization that the police being the first line of defense, the police having primacy on internal security, should be given some level of logistic support. I am encouraged that the FCT administration has come to that realization. I think last week, the FEC approved about 2.something billion for purchase of about 60 Ranger trucks, light trucks, for the police. If you have the police properly equipped, they're able to deal with some of these situations. So by the time the military is coming in, it's coming to clear and then allow the police to maintain law and order.
Okay.
So long as you don't have proper equipping of the police, you have in the police division, you have perhaps only about 25 or 50. They have one rickety vehicle, communication gadget not proper, not in some cases not available. So it's going to be very difficult.
All right.
So I think what has been giving success to the MPF, they've been leveraging on community support, collaborating and cooperating with the public. So I think to be able to enable the MPF fulfill its mandate, there should be conscious effort to provide the necessary resources. Not giving them an envelope and say you do not exceed. So if you don't do that, you are going to have difficulty.
Okay.
Ordinarily, the arrest in Owo, for example, should have been, the commissioner of police parading the suspects arrested or talking about it. But the situation is such that the MPF is not properly.
Yeah, but Mr. Nalegu, as much as we want to see improved and better communication or rapport with security agencies, the army and the police themselves have done certain things that the public raise questions. For instance, when local security networks in different states, Ondo State, for instance, make some arrests and parade them before the public, the police says we're not aware of those kind of scenarios. And it's not the first time. Why does that always happen?
Well, what the law, I think what I was taught in the college is, a private person, individual, can make an arrest, but hand over to the police. But that law is being violated. But I think I'm not in the mind of the IG, or the management team, and other commissioners of police. But Nigeria, we've got to get it right. We shouldn't walk upside down.
Pardon me, Mr. Lego.
Work in an organized
we're
manner.
running out of time, so
things
okay,
things get done. Because Amotekun, just a moment, if Amotekun makes arrest or a Bebeagu or whatever, you hand over to the police. That is the process. That is what the law provides.
Is it the same thing for the army?
Can arrest. But
is it the same thing?
You hand over to the police.
So is it the same thing for the army?
No. When you talk of the military, like the military clearly today is involved in internal
when
security,
they make arrests, should they hand over to the police?
Of course, like I told, in this case, the chief of defense staff or the process is there. They will hand over eventually to the MPF,
General,
because the police are to prosecute.
Right, General, just a quick one. I mean, it's good to know and hear that arrests have been done, but it's something that the country wants to see sustained. And whatever needs to be done to ensure that that is sustained is what we all want. So we've seen cases where the army moves in, clears the place, secures a particular territory or area, and then when they leave, terrorists come back to those places because it's not being filled. So what do you think is missing there? Is the way, with the way things are at the moment, is this something that the army can sustain? Because if the policing component is missing, you take 10 steps forward and several others backward. Can the army sustain things the way they currently are at the moment?
Yes, certainly the efforts, they are going to be sustained, and incrementally too, we're going to start getting results. Yes, once you take you liberate, for instance, a particular town, a particular community is liberated from the hands of terrorists, and of course it's expected that you hand over such into law enforcement agencies to maintain the internal security, which is their statutory responsibility. Most often, once we are not committed, if the commitments to hold those grounds and allow the military to forge ahead on other battles. Do not forget, in the midst of war, there are several other battles, several other operations and everything. So there is always that that's an effort that this is phase 1 has been achieved and we're moving to phase 2. Okay, agency A or social security agency or whatnot should take over. These are done. For an instance, if I give an instance while I was Commander Operation Safe Haven, there was a time that I felt that the whole of Metropolis, the city, is safe enough. We had a discussion with the Commissioner of Police. I said, I'm withdrawing all my troops within the city. I need them in the hinterland. So you take care of it. And that was done. So most of these things is often on the, let's not, if we are committed to doing what we are supposed to do, I'm sure that we are going to have a lot of positive results going forward. So it is my hope that every level of command, you are actually committed to doing your responsibility, do that which you are called to do. If everybody makes his own, this is functional enough, I'm sure that sooner than later we are going to have a stable polity. Now, and do not forget that there is nothing like eradication of the entire security, or there is no nation that has 100% security sanity, so to say. So,
but General, on that same issue, yes, on that same issue that you raised about everyone doing their bit, I go back to the issue you raised the other time when you talked about the fact that there is interagency collaboration in the training manual of the military, and perhaps all other agencies of government would say the same. However, what you said just now, that, okay, we have to secure this area, let these other folks take over so that the achievement can be sustained. I'd like you to, if you don't mind, tell us how the relay happens within the agencies. So the police invites the military, or the military comes in, military performs a function, and then this agency takes over, and then that agency takes over. How does it work, really? Because there are those who will be wondering, what's the role of the NCDC, the DSS, the police themselves, and other agencies, security agencies in the whole spectrum? How exactly does it work, or should it work? Because with the number of soldiers that we have, I'm not sure we can cover 2 soldiers or even 10 soldiers for every state in the country and still maintain territorial integrity. So if you can take us through, how does the relay work? Who hands over the baton to who at what point in securing the country, if you don't mind?
Yes, the protection of the territorial integrity of the nation is that of the military, the Army, Navy, and the Air Force, according to their own terrain and their own land forces, maritime and air forces. So once we come together in a joint effort, and of course, everybody, even there are certain operations that at the planning stage, everybody is on board. And while we're doing the planning of those operations, like what we have, okay, we are going to do this. The Army, the Armed Forces say they are going to do this. The Navy, at this point, DSS will require you here. NSCDC will require you at this point. So everybody knows his own beat. But unfortunately, the myriad of troubles that we have, they are quite overwhelming. It is not that we don't have enough. Of course, there is no armed force. No nation has enough armed forces to cover its country, which even take the best of Western nations. You see all the troubles that they are going through within their own sphere. But let's not fret. We are working very assiduously, very, very hard, and putting effort that is even greater, in a greater pedestal than we have done even in the past, to ensure that the entire nation is covered, the entire nation is appropriately policed, the territorial integrity is not violated.
Major Agundu, just a very brief follow-up to that. A very brief follow-up to that question. Who takes responsibility for that chain of command?
Say again, please.
Which agency takes responsibility for that chain of command?
Now, once there is first of all, we discover what the operation is going to be. Is it going to be an an army-led or military-led operation? Or is it going to be a police-led operation? Is it going to be DSS or whatever? Or collaborative? In the course of plan, when we plan operations, we don't come to the television to say how it's being done. Yes, even if there are some setbacks or there are some negatives or whatnot, it does not design the effort that is being put in place. We have to reassure everybody and the entire nation that the armed forces and the present crop of leadership of the armed forces, and indeed the Inspector General of Police and the DSA, they are working in tandem with each other. And of course, once they, from the military strategic level, once they pass down the information, the authorities down to the operators, to the taxi level, everybody knows what he's going to do. If there are individuals who do not function according to as expected, it does not determine that the chain of command is not being respected or the handover process is not is arbitrarily being done and all whatnot.
I wish you could be clearer. Yes. Because in this case, you know, and in many cases, what we have is internal security that has to be taken care of. And the police says, look, it's the police that is in charge of internal security. But I'd like to come to Mr. Nalegu very quickly now. In terms of the arrest of the Owo Church attackers, it's significant that Amotekun had announced, as my colleague said earlier, that they had made some arrests. You know, but the armed forces didn't acknowledge that at all. There was no statement from the armed forces. And in fact, the police said they're not aware. So is this a case of higher, so to speak, forces taking credit for what little-known Amotekun was able to do? Is that what is playing out here now?
I don't agree with you, because even Amotekun came out to say they made arrests, and they were not clear on it. But let me take you through this process. What is going on is totally arbitrary and wrong. The process of arrest by a private individual is you arrest, you hand over to the MPF. Amotekun, Ebubuagu, or what other groups they are called, I don't think they have business going to conduct parade suspects. I think it's even a violation because they don't have that mandate as far as I know. Two, if Amotekun had made that arrest, the proper place to hand over would have been the MPF. So I believe the military must have made this arrest unrelated to the one made by Amotekun. Because Amotekun, whoever is leading Amotekun knows that if you make arrest, you hand over to the police. Why? Because the law, I think, Section 26 Criminal Procedure Code, Section 10 Criminal Procedure Act, the power of arrest. And then it goes down to say that a private individual can arrest, but immediately hand over to the police. So if that is not done, I think there is a violation. So and then you've taken us back to the fault lines of people claiming credit. I think we must put the interest of the public on top of all this. And
in fairness to Amotekun, just to give a little more clarity to that question, if I remember that story correctly, the Amotekun commander did not parade those that they had arrested. They only mentioned that they had arrested those people.
No, that's what I said. I said they only said they have made arrests.
Yes.
But if you watch television these days, you find different groups.
Oh yes, Amotekun, you know, shows people that they have also maybe trying to invade the state.
What I was taught in police college is that the private person can arrest, but after arrest, you hand over to the police.
Yeah.
So when I find out Amotekun,
have you heard that they haven't handed over to the police?
No. Well, I'm no longer in service, so I wouldn't know that.
You seem to be assuming that they don't hand over to the police after the parade.
I'm not assuming because
after showing.
No, after showing. I think if I am commissioner of police, in Ondo or whatever, I'll work with Amotekun to the extent information gathering, they can arrest, hand over. But I think there shouldn't be this arbitrariness and everybody arrests, you are parading. I even parading.
You know that, it points fundamentally, I mean, whilst there'll be questions as to whether Amotekun should parade or shouldn't parade, I had to speak on that particular issue because I remember that when our own correspondent reported on the matter, we asked him for visual evidence. Or he said, oh, the Amotekun commander just said it. So we didn't even have the visuals of those who were allegedly arrested by Amotekun. So we have that, in clarity. But, I mean, we've since seen other pictures of those who were arrested and paraded by Amotekun. But you also know that these people, questions will be asked of them. This particular agency that has been set up in the Southwest. Because when people continue to see criminal tendencies in many parts, or, people are scared, or people are wondering, this agency that has been set up, is it really working? Maybe they too are under some pressure to show evidence of their working. That could be a reason. There could also be, we are doing something with the police. This is our own part. If we hand it over to the police and things go wrong, as we have seen in the past, this is not without precedence. Even you were reluctant to, mention that the police should be the one to do this prosecution, if I noticed that.
No, you see,
it's a yes or no. Were you not reluctant?
No, you see, let me say something.
Yes.
As far as criminal activities are concerned,
yeah,
those are within the mandate of the NPF. But state security and all that, we can give that, to the DSS. But this is pure criminality. But I have my reservations about the operation of some of these parallel non-state actor agencies. And I say that there is a provision.
Is Amotekun still a non-state actor?
I'm coming.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, I will answer it. Let me say something. The president in 2020, April or so, approved for special, what we call supernumerary police, the Friday police, if I may call them, and specific numbers for states. These guys will be given police uniform, though the color slightly ordered, darker than the very bright blue that the MPF wears. I would have been comfortable, like Amotekun, operating in that way. In that way, there is that synergy, because and then you in various communities. What is that say? For example, you can say in Nyanya, you nominate about 50 guys or 100, and then they are trained by the MPF. When they are trained, they are given uniform. Only their numerals will be 3, not 6, like the regular police will wear. But they will be under command. And in that case, they act as force multiplier to the MPF. And in that way, you have it organized. And then you can, when you are talking of your state police, you begin to see, has this process been very successful? Because the training, synchronizing that training, matters. So, and then you will not have everybody doing.
Well, the judgment is certainly will be left to the people, and I think that it will be in the results that are achieved by the multiplicity of the various agencies that we have. Gentlemen, we have to thank you both for coming on Sunrise Elite this morning and sharing your thoughts. I mean, there's so many questions twirling, and I'm sure that we could continue to have a lovely conversation, but we have to go out of time. Thank you so much. We've been speaking with retired Major General Augustine Agundu, who is a former commander of Operation Safe Haven. And we also had with us Mr. Wilson Inaligu, who is a former Assistant Inspector General of Police. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Let's take a break at this point. When we come back, we'll be talking electoral matters. In just a moment, please stay with us.